Welcome back. In this video, we're going to show you how to populate your counting map ahead of your first inventory count. So as a quick reminder, one of the unique things about Bar-I's inventory system is our use of a zone and mapping system. What that means is that we're going to set up the bar one time in a specific order, and then each time we take inventory, we'll follow this same order, which will ensure that we're faster and more accurate. So this is the stage where we're going to make up that counting map by naming the zones and populating them with the products in those zones. So just before you start this process, it's important you've had a little bit of a think and organized your bar as best you can so that things will stay in the same order as much as possible. And then obviously you need to have received in the mail your wireless barcode scanner. So if those two things are complete, we're ready to get going. So let's get started here. So let's think to begin with about which order we're going to count the bar in. So whenever we're moving through our different zones, we're going to follow the order of left to right, top to bottom, and back to front. So what do we mean by that? Imagine you're standing in front of a set of shelves which perhaps have 4 different shelves on them, and you need to know where you're going to start. So we would always start at the top, so we're going to start with the top shelf. We'll give that a specific name, and then when we're scanning our products on that shelf, we'll start with the products which are on the left-hand side and then move to the right. And if you have a scenario where the products are kind of stacked in columns, where one column has more than one product, we're going to start with that product which is at the back on the far left, move to the front, and then move sequentially to the right, and so on and so forth. Another thing you want to do is consider which order you're going to count your entire bar in. You can see here we're starting behind the bar, and that's typically what we do when we start with new clients, so that when you come in the morning, you can get finished behind the bar, meaning that when the bartenders come in ready for service to serve your customers, you will be into the storage areas, not in their way, and if you haven't quite finished yet, you can be completing that work while service goes ahead without interruption. And then another quick note, we're going to be working here in column D, which is where we have our zone name column. We actually use, you see in this case, lowercase letters where we write instructions. We just put some simple instructions to remind the counter where they are in the bar. And then when we go ahead and write our zone names, we're going to use uppercase to distinguish the difference between a direction and a zone name. So I'm making reference to zone names. What do I mean by a zone? Well, a zone in your bar is anywhere where you store inventory product, but it's quite specific because we're going to break the bar up into lots of different zones. So as I said before, if we had a shelving unit, we would break that up into individual shelves. If we're in the walk-in cooler, it could be a stack of beer on the left-hand side, a single stack, but we wouldn't call the whole shelving unit a zone because we want to break it up more than that, and you'll see in the future that will enable us to do our zone counts and double checks. In this case, we're starting in the main bar, and following that idea of starting from the far left, I'm starting with the speed rail, which is furthest to the left when you're stood behind the bar. And just to keep consistency, I've used the phrase main bar. So if I go ahead and write MB at the start of the zone name, that will indicate to us we're in the main bar, and then I can just choose an appropriate name for the zone, so well 1. So I'm just going to type the zone name into a single cell, and then come over here to column G, which is when I'm going to scan my barcodes and have those products be looked up. So let's work through that. Excuse me, we've put some beer in here just for illustration purposes, but all you need to do is, in order, scan your products. And you can see as I scan those products, they're automatically looked up, and the name of the product appears here in column E. Two peculiarities here. Why did I scan this barcode for the Oyster Bay Sauvignon Blanc twice? Well, the reason is, in many situations behind the bar, you'll have a partial bottle of wine which is open, and then in that same column you'll have full bottles of the same wine backed up behind it. So the reason we need 2 lines is the first line we'll use to weigh the open bottle. We need a dedicated line anytime we're weighing a product, and then on the second line we can enter the count whether it's 1 to 100 or however many, but we do need those 2 lines to count the partial first and then the full 1 second. And then if I move down to this next line, you can see, in contrast to the other occasions, when I scan this barcode, the barcode was simply recreated here in column E, and that indicates to us that that barcode is not in the system, and so we'll need to enter this new product. So let's take a look how we do that. We're going to come from the count sheet here to the new products. That's obviously where we enter new product information, and we just need to follow these 6 steps sequentially. So I start here and just type the name of the product. So just for examples, let's call it new liquor item. Move to the right, and you can see instantly when I type a name, this cell turns red, indicating I still need to enter some more information, and when I enter the final piece of information here, that red cell will turn to green. So here I have to select the category this product belongs to. We're saying it's a liquor bottle. Next we select the size. Then we need to enter some information to allow us to calculate the tare weight. You can either enter the weight of the completely full bottle, and then the software can back out the weight of the glass, or you can get a completely empty bottle, put that on the scale, and simply tell us that weight. So we're going to do that in this case, and the empty bottle weighs 35 ounces. And then we need to indicate that that was the empty bottle. That's important, otherwise there'll be a miscalculation on the tare weight. And then finally, we can simply scan the barcode again. That will be populated. And then when we come back to this count sheet, you'll see that automatically that information has been carried through in the software. And so now instead of reproducing this barcode, the item has been correctly looked up and we're ready to count. So that's the first step. Finally, we've put all these products into this zone, and to complete the process, we need to copy the zone name down on all of those rows where products are kept in this zone. So there's a few different methods you can do this. A lot of people will be familiar with using the menus and selecting edit menu and selecting copy and then selecting the cells and doing paste. As always, we like to try and save time and be efficient, so let me show you two quicker methods for doing this. The first one is select the top cell and then hold down the shift key and then press the arrow key down as many times as you need until you fill the zone. And then you can use the keyboard shortcut Control D, that means down, and it will copy the name of the zone downwards. Let me do Control Z to undo that and show you a second method. The other option you can do is just select the individual cell and press Control C to do copy, and then same thing, hold down the shift key, select the cells you need to by pressing down, and then use the keyboard shortcut Control V for paste, and that will populate it. And let me show you the point of that. If I enter some counts here for my products, you'll see on the right hand side there in the zone count that it's adding whichever individual counts I have to the total for this zone. So if I put a 6 here, that'll be added to the 10, we'll have 16. What this means is when I finish counting the zone, I can go back and do a quick double check. And as we're humans, you're going to make counting errors, but by being methodical and checking our work each time, we'll ensure that these errors are much less frequent. So now we've completed our first zone. As usual, I've just forgotten that I've added or needed to add another line item in for this new liquor item. And so I'm pleased to say we don't need to do anything too crazy, and there's an automatic ability here to add extra lines. So let's show you that. The quickest and easiest method, and anytime I'm talking about a keyboard shortcut, you can find those or remind yourself of those on the instructions tab. In this case, if I need to add an extra line because I realize I need a second line for this new liquor item, the quickest way to do it is to use the keyboard shortcut Control Shift A. All those three keys are together so you can use one hand. And then if I need to erase a line, I can use the keyboard shortcut Control E. As I said, those instructions are here in the instructions tab. Or if you don't have like remembering that or you have trouble, you can also come up here to the top of the ribbon within Excel, click on the add-ins tab here, and then you can see we have a number of custom buttons here. And in this case, we can use the insert product and erase product lines. Insert will put an extra line in for us, and then if we decide we didn't need that, we can just erase the line. So that's how you insert products into existing zones. Now as we continue to move through the bar, let me talk a little bit here about the naming conventions we use for our different zones. So we finished the first zone, and then we put another lowercase direction just to keep us moving swiftly and smoothly through the bar, make sure we're always counting the same order. And then again I've used MB for main bar, but liquor pyramid. You can really use any names you like as long as they're familiar to you and they're descriptive. We typically call those areas where you display your core liquors and premium liquors as the pyramid. They're kind of stacked up in that way. Of course, I could add another line here if I had a second one and scan some barcodes in that product. Next, we have an instruction to move to the reach-in coolers. So we call those coolers behind your bar with a standard fridge door a reach-in. So again, we're having main bar reach-in. We're going least specific, tell us the area, and then getting more specific. So this is the left-hand reach-in. And then we're actually going to name the individual shelves as top, middle, and bottom. And again, by breaking that cooler, the left-hand cooler, into 3 different zones, it makes it easiest for us to do our double checks. Then we have the center cooler. It just has 2 shelves in this case, top and bottom. And then obviously on the right, just showing this for illustration purposes. And then another direction here, we're going to move into the cooler here. The walk-in cooler. I'm going to weigh our kegs. So it might have occurred to you that a lot of kegs don't have barcodes, and so I'm going to show you a different method for adding our kegs or for products that don't have barcodes. Obviously, whenever there's a barcode, simply scan it, and that will be the easiest and fastest way. But in other occasions, you can select the master list tab, or again, to show you another keyboard shortcut, you can use Control Page Up, will skip up, or Control Page Down, skips down. But come to the master list tab, and then we're going to have to search within column F here. So to select the whole of column F, there's two methods. You can either select the F column here, or if you select a single cell in the F column and press Control Spacebar, it'll select that entire column for you. Another keyboard shortcut, Control F for find. It will pop up this find window, and then we can just type the name of the product we're looking for. We're in Colorado, so let's say we're going to enter a keg of Coors Light. And actually, you see here we've jumped to the bottles of beer. These are bottles and cans of beer, different sizes. So keep pressing find next until we come to the product we're actually looking for. And see it jumps there. Press escape to come out of this, or X out of this. And then we'll need to select this individual one, and you can note here there's two different sizes. Because the most common size of draft beer is half barrel kegs, which are 1984 ounces, we don't include the name on that default size, but any keg which is not a half barrel will have the size lifted afterwards. So obviously in this case we've got a quarter barrel, which is half the size of a half barrel. Control C will copy that product for us, come back to the counting sheet, and then just Control V to paste that in. And then let's do it quickly one more time. Come back to the counting tab, and then actually I'm going to do this Coors right above, Control C, and then copy. So I've put my first two kegs in here, and then we've put a zone here for our weighing of our partial kegs, and then we're also going to have our full backed up kegs here in the second rows. So let me show you two other methods you can use to populate the counting map. So it's just a regular Excel spreadsheet, so many of the same functions you can do in a spreadsheet you can do here. So if I need a space for Coors Light, I can simply copy Coors Light, move to the cell I'd need to paste it to, and paste it right in there. Alternatively, and this is sort of a more advanced method, you'll have to get familiar with the names that you're using for your products, but you can also type the name of the product. You see at the moment I've typed Keg Coors, and it doesn't know whether it's Keg Coors or Keg Coors Light, but as soon as I hit that space button, that differentiates it. It flashes up the rest of the name, and I can use enter. And then one final method, I warn you, when you're doing your setup, this method won't work. It will happen the first time, or this drop down menu will be available when you reload the software ready for next time. But you can see here there's a drop down menu of the list of products we have in stock, and I can just select the one I need, and then again it will automatically be looked up for us. So now let's continue. We've finished now in our walk-in cooler. We've just done a couple of items there, and let's continue through here. So put another instruction here in lowercase, now liquor storage. And again, I'm using that same idea of stealing ls for liquor storage and calling the zone name. And then in the storage area, we've got shelving units. And so I'm naming my shelves A1, A2, A3. And just to try and be simple and straightforward, you see here Excel uses letters to indicate columns and uses numbers to indicate rows. So we kind of do the same with our shelves, meaning that shelf A1 is the left-hand side shelf on the very top. One shelf below is A2, A3, etc. And then I've even put a zone in here, LSA floor, if you've got perhaps a couple of boxes or cases in front of the A shelf area. That'll help you keep you straight there. Again, we're breaking up as much as possible. Next up, I've got the B shelves. Then I've got some cases to the right. You notice I've split up. Perhaps we've got some cases in front of the A shelves, some to the right of the B. Again, by breaking that up more, it's going to make it easier to do our double checks and keep you accurate. So there we are. Just move through your bar. Try and be methodical. Think about the order you do it in first. And I can't emphasize enough, the more you get organized ahead of time and keep things in the same position, the less time you'll spend counting your inventory each time.